Hi, this is Jonathan Otto. Welcome to Autoimmune Answers. The importance of gut microbiome was only discovered recently. We used to think of the gut operating in isolation. We're now learning that the gut plays a very important role in the body. It actually regulates many of our internal systems, like our hormone system and our blood glucose balance and more. Apart from these internal processes, there is a direct link between the gut and the brain. In our previous episode, we highlighted the importance of this relationship. The gut is one of the most important defense systems against toxins because the gut and its microbes control what is discarded and what is allowed into the bloodstream. This means that it controls your immune system. And in fact, about 70 to 80% of your immune system is in your gut. It's no wonder that most symptoms of autoimmune disease start there. An unhealthy gut is then responsible for high levels of inflammation in the body. We're also learning that many of the Western medicines we're using are having a long-lasting and damaging effect on the gut. The overuse of antibiotics and antacids is destroying our microbiome. We are now discovering the importance of getting rid of toxins and parasites and using probiotics and other supplements and natural medicines to restore our gut health. Our greatest defense against autoimmune disease is making sure we protect our gut and keep our gut microbiome balanced. In this episode, we'll take a close look into the importance of the gut, talk about the systems it regulates in the body, the things that are causing damage, and what can be done to protect and repair it. Dr. Vincent Pedre, you are an expert in gut health, and you've got some fascinating things to share with us today in regards to how people can have a healthy gut. And so I can't think of one, thank you for doing this. It's an honor to have you. Thank you for your patience, your time, being with us, and I'm looking forward to what you've got to share.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Very welcome. So why don't we dive in? I mean, what's this thing with the gut, this whole conversation? You can take me through where it comes, if you can tell me what's the problem in regards to gut health, like why are people having so many gut health related conditions? What's going on here?
I think the first thing to understand, or I think that's really important, is that the body operates as a system. So it's not just the gut in isolation, it's the gut in relation to other parts of the body, including the brain. We hear about the gut-brain axis, but the gut regulates so many internal processes. It includes regulating our hormone system, our blood glucose balance, so many things that we're learning that are actually rooted in the gut microbiome that we used to think were just internal body processes are actually created in a symbiotic realm with our gut. And that's something really important to understand because we think of just the gut as this plumbing system that you eat food, it goes through you, it gets digested, and it comes out the other end as poop. And you don't think of all the things that are happening in between that really play a significant role in your health. The foods you eat dictate the type of microbiome that exists in your gut. But at the same token, the drugs you take also determine the state of your internal environment. And there's a lot of drugs that people take. One of the highest prescribed medications over the entire world are proton pump inhibitors, which are basically antacids. They reduce the level of stomach acid production. And by doing that, they're altering the first primary step in a system that has been designed to work in a certain fashion for thousands of years. And we're coming in with this medication, we're thinking we're fixing acid reflux, but what we're causing is downstream problems because everything in the gut flows downstream. So if you start in the stomach and you disrupt stomach acid, you're not going to get the activation of the peptidases that break down protein the right way. So you're not going to break down your proteins correctly. You're going to have not as many amino acids that you can extract from your food. And then what happens is you're losing that first primary barrier that protects you from the bacteria and the yeast that come in through your food. So then we're seeing this epidemic of gut disease. And if you look at what has happened in society also in the last half century is the introduction of antibiotics and antimicrobials. and ever increasing, stronger antibiotics, because the bugs that we initially could conquer with the simplest penicillin have become resistant to penicillin. So then we have to come out with even stronger drugs that cause huge disruptions in the gut microbiome. And antibiotics are prescribed worldwide. And not only prescribed, I mean, in other countries outside of the US, you can buy antibiotics over the counter without a prescription. And so we're seeing a predominance of these resistant bugs showing up, but more importantly, what we're seeing is a complete disruption of the gut microbiome. And because of that, then you have a breakdown of a very delicate symbiotic system that has evolved over centuries. And it is, I would, dare to say that it is the most complex ecosystem on the planet within our gut. The other super complex ecosystem that relates to the gut in many ways is the soil. The soil contains 25% of the biodiversity on the earth. But if you think about within our bodies, the biodiversity is contained within our gut. So we have 500 to 1,000 species of bacteria inside each and every one of us. They total 100 trillion in number. So they are having this drastic effect that we're really now in the last 2 decades finding through research, all the different permutations of how the gut microbiome is actually influencing our health. And you start to wonder who's really in charge. Are we in charge, or is the gut microbiome really in charge of our own mental state, how you feel in your body, inflammation in the body, your hormone balance, your blood sugar balance? So there's all these touch points that relate back to the gut. And I don't know, did I lose myself? Because I can go on, and I answered the question somewhere in there.
No, I love it. It's really great. You're helping to outline the problem and these tiny very fragile organisms that we carry, the microbiome, so fragile that we should think about getting wasted drunk and what that could do, and the frequency of those types of things. Like these are major things, and you've got a really unique understanding. I think that.
And one thing I want to say is that it's a really unique system because it's the outside world inside of us. It's what you eat. It goes through you, through this tubing system. And the only separation from that world that is potentially full of toxins that could kill you, all sorts of things that have to be kept carefully orchestrated on the other side of this barrier. This barrier is only 1 cell layer thick. Now it's being constantly replaced over time, so new cells are coming in every 7 to 10 days. The gut lining is being renewed, but that lining itself is a barrier of communication that is only 1 cell layer thick. I mean, just think about that. That's like the outer skin. And that's your interaction with the outside world and this constant communication with the gut microbiome that regulates, for example, our immune system. The immune system, 70% of it is located all along the gut barrier. And I tell people that it's like, if your gut barrier is inflamed, if it's out of balance, so if you've been on antibiotics, even birth control pill increases the permeability of the gut barrier, and how many women are on birth control pills, how many people have been on antibiotics, how many people have taken ibuprofen, NSAIDs, as we know, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, how many people drink alcohol. All these things alter the permeability of the gut barrier, which is a very delicate interface of communication with the gut microbiome, and on the other side, our immune system that is testing and seeing what's coming through, and that gut microbiome telling our own immune system to not get too activated, actually keeping it under control. So what we're seeing in society now is this predominance of gut disease, and then inflammatory disorders, and a burgeoning of autoimmune disease. So all of these interconnected diseases that are actually originating because of inflammation that is starting in the gut. Like I said, 70% of the immune system is there. So if there is a dysregulation of the immune system that starts in the gut, then it can go through the rest of the body. And probably, as we know, if you have leaky gut, which is an increase in the permeability of that gut barrier, so then think of it as a cheesecloth with really tiny holes that's only allowing the right nutrients through when it's healthy. And when it gets sick, that cheesecloth, the holes get bigger. And now you can see bigger macronutrients that shouldn't be getting through, including partially digested proteins, toxins, pesticides, other things that are bigger molecules are getting through into the body and triggering an inflammatory response. And thus then that becomes the trigger for a chronic disease, which in one person becomes a neurological disease, and another person becomes an autoimmune disease, and another person it becomes heart disease, because everybody has their own individual susceptibility. So but the common theme is the fire in the gut, and we know that if there is an increase in permeability in the gut, then you see an increase in the permeability of what we call the blood-brain barrier, which is the protective barrier that keeps the brain almost like a privileged circulation that can protect itself from any circulating toxins in the body. But once your gut is leaky, all bets are off. The brain will become leaky. And my theory is probably there are other areas in the body that maybe the thyroid itself becomes leaky. I've heard doctors speaking about leaky heart syndrome connected with leaky gut. So there are other forces at play, but the primary one is starting in the gut, because that's our biggest exposure to the outside world is through what we eat, what we ingest, what we put into our bodies. And how many people are putting packaged foods that are loaded with chemicals that you can't even pronounce, and how do you know what that does to your body? Or artificial sweeteners, which even though they don't bump your blood sugar, they do alter your gut microbiome in a way that it increases your resistance to the hormone signal insulin, which by doing that will cause your blood sugar to rise and leads to weight gain and leads to carb cravings. So even the artificial sweeteners that have been marketed for weight loss actually in the end increase the risk for obesity, for diabetes, and for heart disease and even stroke.
Wow. Is that something to do with toxin-induced insulin resistance?
It's different. You mean with the artificial sweeteners, what it's doing is, and I guess indirectly, because it's feeding certain types of bacteria in the gut that then proliferate. And those bacteria, a lot of them produce something called endotoxin. And the endotoxin, which is also, the scientific term is LPS, or lipopolysaccharide, it's something that can circulate into the body, and it's fat soluble, so it gets through membranes really easily. So it can get into the circulation. And there are receptors for endotoxin in immune cells, in the liver, in muscle tissue, and in the brain. And what that receptor does is when it gets bound by endotoxin, it turns on an inflammatory pathway within the cell that tells the body we're under attack, we need to turn on inflammation. We're going to turn on all the machinery, the genetic machinery in the cells that encodes for inflammatory proteins, and start secreting them, and the body goes into this inflammatory state.
We need to be looking at the things that will promote gut health. We are all at some point exposed to parasites, environmental toxins, viruses, and so on. So detoxing protocols are important to remove the bad and replace it with good things that promote gut health. We also need to consider what damaging effect stress has on the gut and be looking at lifestyle factors that keep our stress under control. Another main focus should be our daily diet. Is it harming or protecting our microbiome? What sort of food should we be eating to support gut health? This is an important question that we'll look at answering now. Before we continue with this episode, I want to take just a moment to share with you about a special program that we have for people that are looking for extra help. Now, what we've found is that people struggle because they feel alone in the journey, and they're finding themselves guessing and experimenting so much, and they get discouraged in the process. And that's one of the most disappointing things for me. As I've shared this information, a lot of people have taken the information and they have felt alone in the process. And when they've come up to something like a challenge, they've often felt like, maybe it's time to give up. And and then that halts their healing journey. And I've felt so discouraged seeing that in people, and I've wanted to solve that problem, and that's what we solved. You're gonna see some stories here in this episode about people that have had transformation, like Natalia, and you'll see this through the series, and you'll see these amazing breakthrough case studies of people that have got tremendous results. And one of the most profound things that you'll find here is that they actually not only use the information, but they use the special program that we created to get these results. And this is what we're offering. And not only are we offering it, making it available to you, but we're also giving that as at a fraction of the price that we normally offer it for, along with a lot of bonuses that we don't give at other times. And some of these things include going through a full 4-month program of supplements specifically designed. We've had experts, doctors from this series helped to come up with this program and the formulations to help remove these toxic infections and help restore the gut and remove parasites and toxic heavy metals. And this is the program that Natalia used. It's with Well of Life. And we've found people get tremendous results when they use this. And so we've made it available to you, as well as the weekly sessions that we have with the doctors from this series, like Dr. Brooke Goldner and Dr. Khan and Dr. Geringer. And they're going to be sharing with you how to stick with this protocol, how to get transformations, answering your questions. And it's really a very enjoyable, fun process. And you look to your left and you look to your right and you see other people getting results, and it helps you to continue when you feel stuck or you're not sure what to do next. You're getting the direct advice, and you're seeing other people in this coaching session to also going through the same experiences, and you watch them learn and grow, and you find yourself doing the same thing. So we've made this available to you. We're meeting also weekly with a nutritionist to make sure that we're on the right path with the diet and sticking with this and overcoming hurdles and challenges. And we're making sure that this is tailored to you, and that's why you get to voice what's going on for you, so the doctors and the nutritionists can answer you directly, as well as having some support directly one-on-one with a health coach during the time that you're in the program. So you can learn more about this by clicking below. And again, we only have this available for a very limited time, just during the screening of this series. And so then we close it down after that, and we're focusing on serving the people that have said yes, so we can get them the best results possible. And to make that possible for you, we've made it available with payment plans and other ways to make sure this is something that you can do. We've made some options available so it's affordable for you. So you can simply click the link below to check it out so you can learn more and take advantage while we're offering this very special discount during this time, with all these bonuses of direct support from our community, our experts, and with this special program designed to help you heal, along with the weekly modules that we have teaching you how to go about healing the root cause of autoimmune disease, inflammation, or whatever other issue you might be struggling with, or simply how you're trying to prevent or achieve the most abundant health that you can. Again, just click below to learn more about that, and we're going to continue with the rest of the episode now. I hope you enjoy what we've got to share today. Dr. Perlmutter, let's look at what foods help our microbiome flourish and equip them with the vital tools that they need, because they're organisms that we want to support, not hinder and harm with the harmful toxins and toxin-laden food that we may be putting in. So what are those specific foods? And I know that there's so many, but you've got to have some top hitters. So let's dive in.
We live in a time of fadism as it relates to diets, fads. There's a popular diet one day that's maybe it's ketogenic diet, maybe it's a paleo diet, maybe it's being more carnivorous. But I think if you want to have one overriding principle in terms of guiding your diet decisions, it should be eat to nurture your gut bacteria. And you can nuance that with Paleolithic ideas, with ketogenic ideas, wonderful, with all kinds of diets. But if your ultimate goal is to nurture your bacterial friends that live within you, then you will focus on a diet that checks a lot of the boxes. It's virtually devoid of simple carbs, refined carbohydrates. You really aren't going to see sugar. What you are going to see is color, various colors on the plate, because the plate is covered with colorful, nutrient-dense, mostly vegetables, mostly plant-derived foods. Now this is coming from the grain brain doctor who people accused of being Atkins, the next iteration of the Atkins diet, being high in meat and no vegetables. Nothing is, we've never said that, and nothing could be worse for you. You want your vegetables. Why? Well, if you want to nurture your gut bacteria, you're going to need to eat fiber. And fiber is found only in vegetables and fruit. There is no fiber in any animal-based products. So these trends to eat more animal-based products, more meat, are interesting, but they're now depriving your gut of what it really needs, and that is to give nutrition to your gut bacteria. Have some meat if you choose to eat meat alongside. Have some wild fish, some free-range chicken, great. Some pasture-raised eggs, totally fine. But most of the plate is vegetable, plant-based, high in fiber, colorful, array of vegetables, various nutrients that are represented because of the different colors that you would then see. And then what are the other things that you're going to want to think about in terms of keeping your gut bacteria healthy? Well, it turns out that there are some surprises here. And it turns out that one of the things we really look at in terms of what makes for a healthy gut is diversity. We've got to welcome diversity, not just in the gut bacteria, but across our planet, because diversity means resilience. The more different bacteria that are represented in the gut, the more resilient the person is going to be to onslaught of potentially threatening things in the environment, be they chemical, be they lifestyle, whatever they may be. So we want diversity. And it turns out that aside from food, with food being number one, a big player in gut bacterial diversity is aerobic exercise. So the associations have been that people who have higher levels of cardiovascular fitness have higher gut bacterial diversity. So it brings this notion of more aerobic exercise to literally to the table in terms of amplifying the diversity of our gut bacteria. We know that our gut bacteria are threatened when we don't get enough restorative sleep. There's even some new, pretty forward-thinking research that demonstrates that nature exposure, getting out of doors and interacting with nature, has a positive effect on our gut microbes, allowing flourishing of good species and allowing more diversity.
A couple of things that I think a lot of people wouldn't have expected in your answer would be that it wasn't just food, even though that may be the biggest player if there's one to be weighed more heavily than the others. However, without the other correct factors, for example, the exercise, particularly aerobic exercise, which will improve the digestion, the ability for the body to intake the nutrients and to utilize the healthy and delicious food that we may be eating, that without that exercise is much less effective. And then the sunlight exposure, the outdoor environment, and the effect this has on the breathing, and how this revitalizes and helps to flourish these good guys that are not just looking for us to do one thing. They're looking for a system, or what they need is so diverse. Mitochondria in the cell need sunlight. And these are really interesting tools for people to consider.
One of the biggest threats to the gut bacteria, aside from antibiotics and other medications, is a chemical produced in the body called cortisol. Now, cortisol is a stress hormone. Our bodies produce cortisol when we are threatened or we perceive a threat even though it's not actually there. So our busy, stressful lives are constantly amping up our body's production of cortisol, which puts us into fight or flight mode, and that does a couple of things. It produces this chemical cortisol that has an effect on the diversity of the bacteria, which bacteria will survive and overpopulate and which bacteria will not, and also has a direct effect on some of the immune cells that cluster around the gut and are involved in creating the chemical mediators of inflammation. So how do we offset cortisol? Well, look at our lifestyles. What are we doing that's so stressful? Maybe turn the news off at night and don't engage in that stuff day in and day out. Maybe realize that the pop-ups on your computer screen are by and large threatening to you, making you feel inadequate, that you have to buy something, constantly challenging you to need to reevaluate yourself. And really understand that there's so much going on in our day-to-day lives that pulls us towards stress and production of cortisol, which we can offset by making choices. For example, to engage in mindfulness and meditation, clearly shown to lower cortisol levels. Engaging in nature has clearly been shown to lower cortisol levels, even in a city. So a recent study measured the level of cortisol in the saliva of individuals who visited a park in the middle of downtown in a big city. And their cortisol levels went down when they were near the trees, when they were appreciating nature. So it's really very valuable. We realize that that mentality tends to increase our connection to the part of the brain that lets us make better decisions, so it fosters the rest of what we want to do to make the gut bacteria better. So getting back to then job one, which is to eat the right foods, we want to eat foods that are high in prebiotic fiber. What are those? Well, chicory root, Mexican yam or jicama, dandelion greens, garlic, onions, leeks. These are powerful sources, concentrated sources of good prebiotic fiber that not only allows your gut bacteria to repopulate, but also encourages them to do what they do from a metabolic perspective, make the chemicals that your body needs, help to repair and maintain the gut lining. Those are complex carbohydrates, those fiber-rich foods. When we deprive our gut bacteria of carbohydrates, these types of carbohydrates, then what happens is they look around for other carbohydrates to digest, and guess what? The lining of the gut, the mucinous layer of the gut lining is carbohydrate. So they start to digest, to dissolve away the gut lining, and that's exactly what we don't need. That opens the door, quite literally, opens the door for bad health.
We were told about the importance of eating our broccoli as a kid. We know vegetables are healthy because this is what we were told growing up, but often we don't know exactly what they do for our bodies. Next, we're going to talk about the importance of those cruciferous vegetables and how they help to reduce inflammation in the body and work to promote the body's natural detoxification system. These two mechanisms are very important for gut health.
So when we want to renew the gut, we have to think of it holistically, right? It's not just about something here and here. You have to think about the environment in which you eat, sitting down and playing nice music, eating with good company, putting nutritious food in your body. You want to chew your food slowly, masticate. You don't want to just swallow your food or inhale your food, because that digestion process is really important. And then we have to look at all these different factors. So the clinical approach to renewing the gut and healing the gut involves three important processes. First, we need to support enzymatic process. Why? Because that is where absorption and breakdown first happens. If you can't break down the food, you can't absorb it. And if you can't absorb it, and it doesn't matter how healthy you eat, then you're not going to be able to extract the nutrient from that food. So enzymes is really important. And we talked about how many people suffers with pancreatic insufficiency, where they're not making enough enzyme. And remember, why would they not make enough enzyme? It could be because that there's stress that's happening, and when your body's in a fight or flight state, digestion is compromised. So literally the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight nervous system is engaged, which shuts down the digest and relax system. So for you to make enzyme, for your body to think that you're actually sitting down enjoying a nice meal, you cannot be stressed. So a lot of times people are in a chronically stressed state, and that causes enzyme deficiency. That's one way that can happen. Other people may have enzyme deficiency due to pancreatic issues. If someone's diabetic and they're constantly pumping out insulin, the pancreas may not be able to secrete enough enzyme because that organ literally is experiencing fatigue and possible failure. So there's many different reasons for that, but I could tell you that enzyme deficiency is so common. In fact, as we age, gastric acid and stomach enzyme and pancreatic enzyme production tend to decline with age, just as a normal part of aging. So for most people, a multivitamin is not what I recommend. Enzymes what I recommend, because if you can take the enzymes and improve your enzymatic breakdown, then you're going to be able to extract more nutrient from your food, and multivitamin is kind of an afterthought. Okay, so enzyme is the first step. The next step to healing the gut is the microbiome. And this is so important because the number of microbiome or microorganism in the human body exceed the number of human cells in the body. So really we're more pathogen than we are human. But these microbiome are not bad for us. In fact, they live in symbiosis with us, in concert and harmony with us. They assist us with nutrient absorption and breakdown. They assist us with literally making vitamins such as vitamin K. These microbiome also serves really important function in regulating immune function. They also serve really important function in affecting brain function. New research is showing that the microbiome health can impact neurotransmitter levels and brain inflammation. So microbiome health is important. Now the microbiome is very sensitive to various toxins and the processed food, sugary foods, as well as medication. So for example, organophosphates such as glyphosate found in pesticide has a damaging effect on the microbiome. Antibiotics from medication, but remember antibiotic is not just in medication. You'll find antibiotics, it's ubiquitous in our environment, from disinfecting wipes, disinfecting soap, right? Everything has like some kind of disinfectant property to it. They put antibiotic in everything, so it becomes so sterile that the microbiome is not able to thrive. And that's why so many people have microbiome deficiencies or imbalance. And keep in mind that not just the chemical and the toxins and the medication, stress itself can affect the microbiome. So stress is a big deal here. Now the third step to addressing gut renewal or to heal the gut is a concept that most people don't think about in the gut. And what I call is detox. Now specifically, binding of toxin, cleansing. So we don't think about that with the gut because we typically think of detox as a liver business. But in the gut, you can actually accumulate toxins in the gut lining. I see this clinically quite a bit when we do specific type of testing to identify this. And so that when you have toxins in the gut, these toxins may actually block the villi and block the epithelial cells from absorbing nutrients. Almost like the space between the gut lining where nutrients are supposed to be absorbed is blocked by these toxins. And this could be pesticides, this could be fire retardant material, artificial colors and ingredients, medications, residues. So it could be a number of things that can actually bind to the intestinal lining and cause blockage and cause absorption issue and cause just this internal environment where the gut lining is toxic. So we want to, in a sense, bind to the toxins in the gut and cleanse, or in a sense, scrub the toxin from the gut. And that's something that a lot of people don't actually think about. So these are the three things that we want to do to help renew the gut, okay, to heal the gut. So what I really like about what the Well of Life team has designed and come up with is the Gut Renewal Bundle. The Gut Renewal Bundle contains products that support each of these three important steps in renewing the gut. And so for example, with the enzymes, we have a product called the digestive enzyme. And the digestive enzyme is a product that contains various enzymes that help assist in the breakdown of carbohydrates, fats, proteins, complex fibers, and starches that may be problematic for those with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or SIBO. In those people with SIBO, breaking down food is really important because if you can break down fiber and food to the smaller constituents, then the bacteria does not have a chance to ferment against that. The digestive enzyme from Well of Life contains various different enzymes to support the digestion and breakdown of carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and fibers. These include fungoproteases, includes lipase, and lactase, which break down dairy. It contains papain and bromelain, which are proteolytic enzymes to help you break down tough proteins. It also contains alpha-galactosidase, which helps break down complex carbohydrates and fiber. And it also has the addition of lactobacillus, which is a probiotic to help support digestion and assimilation. So this product is very full spectrum because you need that for digestive process. You don't just eat carbohydrate, you don't just eat protein, you eat all of them. So in an enzyme, you need all of those different type of enzyme to support the breakdown process of that nutrient. Okay? So that's really important as far as supporting that digestive process. And a lot of people want to take something that's antimicrobial, but I would say for most people, digesting the food and breaking it down is actually just as important, if not more important than actually, using some kind of antimicrobial. So enzyme is critical in that step, and that covers this step here. The next step is support microbiome health. And you do that with a full spectrum, high potency probiotic. And that's what we see here with probiotic 40 billion plus, or CFU. And the probiotic 40 billion contains 40 billion colony-forming units, or CFU, of 4 different strains of probiotic. These can include the lactobacillus species, as well as the bifido species. And you need a variety to support a variety of the microbiome. Single-strain species probiotic tend to not work. You'll see out on the market that you can buy lactobacillus just by itself, one strain. And that tend to be not as efficient or effective as something that has 4 different species that'll help you support the full diversity of microbiome. The last part of a comprehensive gut renewal program should include detoxing the gut, and this is going to be accomplished by the superfulvic minerals. This formula I'm very, very impressed with because it contains over 100 different micronutrients, 18 amino acids, 13 organic acids, and what it does is going to help support not only the transport and assimilation of nutrients, it's going to support the detoxification of intestinal tract, as well as it's going to support the chelation and binding to harmful chemicals. Superfulvic minerals is derived from humus, which is the decomposed organic matter over thousands of years that's accumulated on the earth. And this humus is full of nutrients from the accumulation of all these breakdown of organic matters. Therefore, it contains a variety of nutrients that's not commonly found in the deficient soil that we have today. Due to over-farming, the minerals today in the soil today is deficient of these trace organic matters. So that makes superfulvic mineral a very key component to a gut renewal program to supply nutrients. Not only will help you with assimilation of nutrients, it also helps balances pH in the gut environment. It supports in modulating the immune system to decrease gut inflammation. It supports the heavy metal binding. It's also a great cleanser of the intestinal tract. And this is something that's really overlooked in both natural medicine and conventional medicine. It's a key part to the overall gut renewal process. In my practice, I see so many people with chronic health conditions ranging from autoimmune disease to inflammation to chronic pain to chronic neurological conditions such as brain fog, fatigue, memory loss. And the common denominator between all these people with these different conditions is that their gut health is compromised. If you struggle with any of these conditions or any chronic health condition and you're looking to improve your health, start with the gut. And you must do it in a comprehensive protocol that covers enzymatic breakdown, which will help you with absorption, the microbiome health, as well as the detox, binding, and cleansing of your gut.
Diana had narcolepsy, and she had Guillain-Barré, which is similar to MS, multiple sclerosis, and she also had some other issues with insomnia and other conditions. And her husband had psoriatic arthritis and arthritis. They both did the same thing, and then they got results as well, and we've been sharing those results. So that should give you a good example to listen carefully to what we say is the path and the way, and not to get so obsessed about your exact diagnosis, because what we're talking about here is due to due to toxic exposures and what we can do to eliminate them out of our life. So
yeah, well, in 1988, I had Guillain-Barré. I was on life support for 27 days and totally paralyzed. And healing from that, which now I know is autoimmune. No one ever said that back then, that these things, what they were. But and then back in 1998, I was diagnosed with myasthenia gravis and narcolepsy, cataplexy. And so I had been fighting that and fatigue for a long time. And had several illnesses back then along with it. The thyroid was going bad. They were telling me I had hypothyroidism, and I had severe allergies, and I was on like 7 medications for all of that. But
Yeah.
Decided to do a vegan diet after praying, and I felt like that's where the Lord had led me to go on a vegan diet, and got better, got pretty much better from most of it, but never did heal from the narcolepsy and cataplexy. And then going on to,
and meanwhile, like in a parallel universe, your husband is battling with his conditions, right?
He had severe acid reflux, and I told him, what had worked for me was a vegetarian diet, seems to heal a lot of things. Let's try it. And he went on it, and within 3 or 4 days, he didn't have acid reflux anymore. But he'd had a skin condition. It was a mild skin condition that mostly affected his face for the whole time we've been married, and he says for his whole life.
Yeah.
And this year it got really severe. He started having joint pain in his hand and his knee, and he started breaking out in lesions all over his body, and a really bad just raw spot in his hairline in the back. And so about that time I was doing the autoimmune webinar with you guys, and going through all that and realizing that a lot of his conditions were autoimmune, mine were autoimmune, and that we needed to start treating them that way and trying to get better. And so
That's awesome. That's a really great classification. So then you could see, hey, look, this could be toxic inflammation. Because it's one thing to just think, I've got these flare-ups. I've got psoriatic arthritis and psoriasis, and it's just like, maybe something's kind of messed up. So
yeah, we never connected the dots that these things were our bodies cascading down into some, just autoimmune, like an autoimmune cascade. I always thought they were each individual things happening to us. And it just kind of put everything in perspective, that we realized that a lot of it had to do with our gut, and we needed to clean that up. And so we started doing the detox protocol that you had, and learning some of the tips and tricks from your autoimmune recipes and other things that were it was the recipes and
so those dietary changes that you did through taking some of the recipes. So all these guys here, just having gone through Natural Medicine Secrets, remember, those protocol books are amazing, the recovery protocol. You went through the recovery protocol, and there's recipes in there, use them. They're amazing tools to eat delicious, because if you want to heal, you've got to start eating healthy, delicious. Sometimes, having good tasting food is actually part of the healing process. But then you did the Ultimate Detox Bundle. You're about to start the Gut Renewal Bundle, and your husband did it as well. And so this was a major catalyst for both of you, from what you've shared with me in regards to your husband being able to clear up. I mean, tell me how that story went.
Well, those lesions have gone away, and they have not come back since we started. We did do a 14-day juice fast.
Yep.
And I was looking back at the dates, because I was just at the doctor's office today for a checkup, and I had gone to her on 6/14 which was right about the time we were starting the juice fast. And since that time, she said I've lost 18 pounds. So they were kind of going like, what happened to you? What's going on? And I said, this is a good thing. This is really a good thing.
And there's never really one thing that anyone ever does in isolation. You're going to be drinking water. You've got to either improve or worsen. Something's going to be happening with your diet. But we found the biggest needle mover to be these particular ingredients were helping to remove the toxins from her and her husband, manifesting in different ways. With her, it was the sleep, it was the strength, and then with her husband, it was his ability to close his hands. Could you imagine, like, toxic inflammation, so you can't even move your hands, and then
it's mainly the thumbs, and
thumbs.
Work he does. It was just so swollen and sore in there. After reading about psoriatic arthritis, because I didn't know anything about it, I realized, how detrimental that is and how bad it can get. But yeah, he was amazed that he could do this.
That's awesome.
That simple little thing. He was just really excited about it.
That's fantastic. And so somebody not able to do this, before long, they're not going to be able to do this, and before long, they're not going to be able to do this and this. And so, I mean, I've seen people that can't move their hands like that, and then within 2 weeks, 3 weeks on a good detox, they're able to do this. Diane, if you just compare the before and after, the results that you and your husband experienced, and what that's been like for you.
Well, losing the weight is great, but gaining the energy is the best part. That's what I really, actually, I would, by 9:30, sometimes 8:30, sometimes 5:30, by the time I got off work, I would be so exhausted, I would just want to go to bed. I would have no energy to do anything. And I'm finding that I have energy up till 11 o'clock at night. I feel more normal than I ever have in my life. And I'm able to go and do things. I wouldn't even drive much in the evening because of it. But my husband, he's not so diligent about his diet. So he's maintaining these, his the psoriatic arthritis reliefs he's had. He's maintaining those. He's happy about that. He's losing a little bit of weight slowly, and he's doing really well.
Awesome.
We're both really well.
Well, you guys are amazing. Can't wait. Thank you for inspiring the group, Diana. Thank you for your amazing results. I mean, and what would you say to someone that was thinking about getting started using a program like yours or the other programs that we have here? What would you say to that person?
If you're suffering with anything, I think that just jumping in there and trying something new that's designed, like that package that's designed to work together, it made the difference for me, and it may make the difference for you. If you've tried other things, this may be the answer.
Fantastic. Thank you, Diana. You're amazing. And can't wait to see you again. Thank you for joining us. So do you have any other foods that rank up high on your list for either just good for overall health and then specifically microbiome health?
We've always been told that we should eat cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, kale, even wasabi, believe it or not, is a cruciferous vegetable. Cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, good cruciferous vegetables. Why are they called cruciferous? Because when the vegetable is allowed to go to flower, the flower is shaped like a cross or a crucifix, so hence cruciferous vegetables. And yeah, we've been told for years they're good. They have lots of vitamins, they have lots of antioxidants, and they're a good source of fiber. But what we understand now, which I think is getting a lot of attention, is that cruciferous vegetables help us raise levels of things like sulforaphane in our bodies. That there are chemicals in these vegetables that, when they are released by certain enzymes, one being called myrosinase, which happens when we chew these vegetables, or myrosinase made by, who guessed, our gut bacteria when we digest these vegetables. This sulforaphane is at the peak level of a cascade that activates hundreds of genes that are good for us. So sulforaphane turns on a pathway called the NRF2 pathway, not to be too technical. But that pathway powers up detoxification. It powers up the production of your body's own endogenous antioxidants, and it powerfully reduces inflammation. That's why broccoli is so important. And far more concentrated ability to get this sulforaphane comes from broccoli sprouts, much more than eating the broccoli, especially after the broccoli has been cooked. And if new data is correct, the seeds of broccoli may be even a more powerful way to get higher levels of sulforaphane. The trick is, in order for that glucoraphanin, which is the chemical, to be morphed into sulforaphane, you have to have that enzyme, myrosinase. How do you get it? By chewing these foods. Breaks open the cell, releases this enzyme, and sulforaphane goes, yeah, I'm here to do my job. I'm here to reduce inflammation. I'm here to nurture your gut, and I'm here to help you make your body's own detoxification and antioxidant chemicals. So that's why the cruciferous vegetables are so very, very valuable.
We look at the blue zones, they're the 5 longest living groups of people in the world as studied by the National Geographic study under Dan Buettner, that we see with these 5 groups of people across the world, one of them being in America, the other ones being in Okinawa and Sardinia and Ikaria. And these places, they were they had a lot more plants than your average person. So what were the benefits of all those different foods that they were eating?
Look at their microbiomes. So when we talk about the so-called blue zones and look at the multiple factors that are associative in terms of outcome, which in this case longevity, I think it's important to really get your arms around the fact that this doesn't lend 100% scientific support for each of those factors in isolation, which goes against the current scientific method of trying to extract, well, what is it that they're doing? What is the magic food or the magic lifestyle thing that these people are doing and have done, which connotes a longer lifespan? Because that's the nature of modern science. What is the variable? And I think what blue zones demonstrate is that it's this compilation of variables. Yes, they eat more vegetables. Yes, they're more active. Yes, they remained involved in doing constructive things that contributed to society for a longer period of time. And yes, they have much stronger relationships within their families and in their communities than is the norm in our world today. Now, each of those factors is very important. So I think what we should say from understanding the results of this project is that it really looks like it's not one thing that you can put in a bottle, but it's this whole lifestyle agenda that we should be looking at. Yes, there's value in connecting to other people. Yes, there's value in physical activity, in getting restorative sleep, in eating the right foods. And, you know, truthfully, some of the foods that are eaten in these cultures that have a long lifespan are not necessarily on our list, you know, but it might be that by and large the food is good, but that all of the rest of the factors that they engage in conspire to really bring the food along and help it along to still also lend itself to extending lifespan. So I think the biggest thing that we've learned from blue zones, what I've learned from the blue zones, is it really validates the notion of bringing as many things to bear as we can to offer up to you the best choices in terms of what you can take from information and then make changes in your lifestyle choices. It's not one thing. There's no magic supplement. You can take all the sulforaphane you want. That's great. You can exercise till you're blue in the face. All great, or maybe not. But the point is, it's bringing the whole program together, body, mind, and spirit. And not to undervalue the spiritual part of the experience. Why? Because meditative practices are at the forefront of scientific research right now, showing physical and functional changes in the brains of meditators that are the types of changes that we are looking for. Higher activity in the parts of the brain that allow us to make better decisions, that allow us to plan for the future, and allow us to be more compassionate, empathetic beings, not just for ourselves and not just for our neighbors, but for the planet itself. So, this is really important that we understand it's a compilation of things. It's a program, not a thing. Why? It's the implementation. You bought the book, you watched the docuseries, you watched the program, you watched something on television. You got it. God, it really makes a lot of sense. If it doesn't go any further than that, it's useless. So what we are really exploring now in our new book, Brainwash, is what it is that keeps people from then acting on this information. How has our decision-making apparatus been compromised? The truth of the matter is, what we've learned is it's been hacked. That our modern day, our modern society has in place a system that is directly hacking our ability to make and stick to good decisions. Making good decisions comes from a part of the brain we call the prefrontal cortex. It's up front. Unfortunately, our modern world is locking us into another part of the brain, back here, called the amygdala. It's the center for impulsivity, and it's the center for narcissism. When we're operating from an amygdala perspective, then we are self-centered, we are impulsive, we're not thinking through our decisions, and ultimately it leads to bad food choices, which increase inflammation, damage our gut bacteria, lead to weight gain. And this whole circle begins where then inflammation threatens our ability to make good decisions. Why? Because it locks us into the primitive amygdala. We become more and more impulsive. The good news is that we can turn this around. We can reestablish our connection to the prefrontal cortex. We can stop what we called in Brainwash disconnection syndrome. It's what we're suffering from today. We're disconnected from the gift of our prefrontal cortex. We are disconnected from the messages of our gut bacteria. We're disconnected from letting our DNA express itself to keep us healthy because we're controlling our genes. We're disconnected from our neighbors, from our community, from people in other countries, and we're disconnecting from the planet. And that has powerful health consequences.
Every time I open up a journal article or a medical book to learn about the body, it always leaves me in awe of how complex and exquisite and elegant and powerful our bodies are and what nature's endowed us with. And one, of course, is our immune system. And we live in an environment that is teeming with microbes. There are microbes on our skin. We have trillions of them inside of us in our gut. We breathe in viruses all the time. Every breath we're breathing in viruses. Every meal, every drink we take, there's viruses, bacteria, etc. And yet we should be sick all the time, but we're not. And the body has this remarkable system, and it has layers to it. There's just the keeping the membranes healthy, your skin, the mucous membranes in your mouth. Right there is where immunity starts. If people are healthy, then not only is their skin intact and has good blood supply to bring in white blood cells, etc., but the mucous membranes in the nose, the throat, intestinal tract, these actively secrete mucus that contains antibodies, IgA antibodies, that are the first defense that if a virus or bacteria lands on our nasal membranes or we swallow them, now the IgA antibodies come out and interrogate the virus and lock onto it if it's a harmful one. And that's just the first line of defense. There's many of them, the various immune cells, the lymphocytes, and the polymorphonucleocytes, and then our lymph nodes and our ability to make physical antibodies that patrol against the viruses. You can spend lifetimes learning about this, and my colleagues in immunology do exactly that. They devote their whole career to this wonderfully complex system. So when you ask, is it worthwhile focusing on that? Yes, that is by far leaps and ways. The most important thing to do is keep your own immune system healthy. And kind of leap to the chase here before we talk about ashwagandha and green tea. with health in general. It's the entire flow of nutrients into the body. It's the entire way we treat our body as far as getting enough sleep and water. We'll talk about all that. That turns you into a healthy being that's able to resist these viruses. Where am I going with that? Because the flip side is, it should be evident to everybody. If you are someone who is obese and diabetic and eating cheeseburgers and not getting enough sleep and drinking alcohol and eating lots of sugary treats, just taking some turmeric or some ashwagandha or some maitake mushrooms and think, ooh, that's going to boost my immune system and keep me safe. It doesn't work like that. There's no magic bullet, no magic feathers. Are you going to make yourself a healthy person or aren't you? And if so, that requires all the dimensions. Certainly a healthy diet. I'll be glad to go into the specifics of that. But before we do, again, there's so many other things that are common sense, but getting enough sleep is so important. When I'm working in the emergency rooms and I'm up all night and working all day in the clinic, I do that for a few nights in a row, and soon my throat gets scratchy and I'm getting chills. I know I'm getting sick. So get enough sleep. It's really important. Easier these days with less work being done, I guess. Drink enough water. When you don't drink enough water, your secretions get thick and the antibodies can't move through them as well. So keep saying, well, hydrate is very important. Stop the social poisons. Alcohol kills everything it touches, including your lymphocytes. And I think it's a poison to every organ in the body. The less alcohol you drink, the better. Sugar, it's a little bit in your tea for flavoring. It's fine, but don't be eating sugar as a food, candy bars and cakes and muffins and donuts. This is eating chunks of sugar as a food, and it floods your system with fructose and sucrose that keep your body from functioning well immunologically. And stress, everybody talks about it, but when you're angry or you're frightened, your adrenal glands respond, and they put out a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol has important uses, but one thing it does, it suppresses your immune system. And if you're walking around constantly angry or jealous or scared or resentful, and you're walking around with these high levels of cortisol, that can't do great things for your immunity. And people, it's well known, people get sick when they're under stress. So those are all really, really important things as far as keeping the whole system healthy. So if you do encounter a virus, and most people are going to encounter it, and most people just have a fairly mild viral infection. We shouldn't lose sight of that, but you want to be one of those people who just has a mild viral infection, because in about 2 out of 10 people, it is a god-awful fierce virus, and it'll put you in the hospital with blood clots and kidney failure and lung failure. So it's not a virus to be trifled with, but again, you want to be one of those people who's in good physical shape, that your immune system can keep this thing at bay.
It's like the concept of the straw breaking the camel's back. The virus.
Indeed. The whole food, plant-based diet, lots of salads and vegetable soups and steamed veggies and quinoa casseroles and bean chilies and all the wonderful plant-based foods, all these wonderful fruits, the papayas and mangoes for desserts. You run that food stream through your body, through your tissues, meal after meal, week after week, month after month. You're really fortifying your tissues with the nutrients they need to make more antibodies, etc. So the things that we know are good is giving your body the basic vitamins and minerals that it needs. And vitamin D, we're seeing, plays an important role. We used to think that it was just involved in calcium metabolism, etc. But we now know that you need sufficient vitamin D to have a healthy immune system. And membranes, skin, mucous membranes in the mouth, they require healthy vitamin D levels, and those are part of your immune system. So keeping your your vitamin D levels above 30 nanograms per milliliter is important. And especially if you live in Puerto Rico, it's easier. But get out in the sunshine every day. We're in the Northern Hemisphere, we're going into the spring and into the summer. And spend 20, 30 minutes outside in the sun every day. Get some sun on your face. We need the sun. We become so afraid of it. And this will increase your vitamin D levels and probably help you ward off the virus. Vitamin C seems to be important, and rather than shoveling down lots of pills, best thing is have a couple of oranges every day, have a grapefruit, and green peppers, etc. Get vitamin C in natural forms. Zinc is important for there are lots of enzymes in the body have an atom of zinc attached to them that are important in immune function. And so whole grains, legumes of all types have zinc in them. So make sure there's plenty of that in your diet. And before we get into more specifics, mushrooms, etc., I'm a big mushroom fan. We have it pretty much every night in some form or another. We eat lots of different forms of mushrooms. But I can't, especially as a physician, leap over that big specter in the room, the feared underlying conditions. If you are obese, you are painting a big bullseye on yourself for the virus. And there's a number of reasons why obese people suffer more from this virus. If you have diabetes and your tissues are full of sugar from poorly controlled diabetes, that's a welcome mat to the virus. If you're in heart failure from high blood pressure and your blood is backing up in your lungs and they're all full of fluid, that's easier for the virus to invade. And if you've been a smoker, for sure. So these pre-existing conditions that I just mentioned, those are really what to work on. And the beauty of eating healthy, of jumping on the whole plant food train, is that those terrible conditions, which are bad anyway, even without the virus, they shorten life and make life miserable if you've got diabetes and high blood pressure, etc. But especially in the face of the virus, the beauty is you can make those better within weeks. Within days of adopting the salads and the soups and the greens, the obesity starts to melt away and the arteries relax and the high blood pressure comes down and the joints stop hurting, the skin clears up and the asthmatic lungs stop wheezing so much, the migraine headaches get better. People get healthy on a plant-based diet, but those fearsome pre-existing condition, diabetes, is reversible on this kind of food stream. So that's reason alone to jump on it. Obesity, as I said, melts away. When you're eating soups and salads and green, it's mostly fiber and water. You wind up nice and lean from that. And again, it's much easier on the arteries and the heart, etc. So to get out from under that specter of those diseases that are making you more susceptible to the virus, that alone should be a reason to focus on the food, on a whole plant-based diet. So just had to say that. And if people are trapped in their houses for these months, what a beautiful time that life has given us to get those meals really healthy. So when we emerge from this tunnel, we come out leaner and healthier and with a more fortified immune system. Use this time instead of cursing it. This should be like being in a cocoon for the caterpillar. We come out as a healthier butterfly. So again, the food is the most important thing. But that said, the ones that could feel good about recommending, again, is sufficient vitamin D levels, plenty of vitamin C, foods containing zinc, and have plenty of mushrooms in your diet to stimulate your immune system. Those are the main ones I feel solid about recommending. Isn't that wonderful? It's so exciting. I tell the medical students, what more could you want for your patients to help them a life where they don't need you, that they're just healthy people living their lives? Isn't that what we want for everyone, including our medical patients? I'm the happiest doctor I know. My patients get healthy right in front of my eyes. And I tell the students, you can be the happiest doctor you know, but focus on the patient's food. That's where to start with this healing. Absolutely.
Our gut relies on many different organs in our body to help with the process of digesting the nutrients and expelling the toxins. For example, the liver is responsible for cleaning your blood and storing sugar in the body. Your pancreas makes the enzymes your body needs during the digestion process, which are responsible for breaking down the sugars, fats, and starches, and the gallbladder releases a fluid which helps break down the fatty foods. All these functions work best when the body is filled with nutrients and the toxins are removed. We need to work on feeding the gut with things that help the digestive enzymes to work effectively to break down the proteins from our food, including cruciferous vegetables in your diet, along with taking probiotics and carbon-based minerals, all help to protect the microbiome, encouraging optimal digestion and less inflammation.
Another really important aspect to healing the gut is the use of digestive enzyme. You are what you eat, but I will go on to say that you are what you absorb. So if you eat really healthy, but you can't absorb any of it, then it doesn't matter how healthy you eat. And what happens is digestive enzyme secretion and gastric acid secretion decrease over time. It's just a sign of aging that we make less and less of these enzymes and digestive juices. And if you throw on top of thyroid problem, autoimmune inflammation, and stress, on top of aging, then our digestive capacity actually really decreases over time. Certain medication can definitely affect digestion as well. So this is where enzyme can be really helpful to help you maximize and extract the maximum amount of nutrient from that food that you eat. So enzymes can be very helpful. And also by breaking down the food into its individual constituents, it also makes it easier for your body to absorb, and also makes it so that if you happen to have any dysbiosis or gut infection, that these infections will have nothing to feast on, because these gut infections, such as what we find in people with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, tend to ferment against food that's not completely broken down. So by using enzyme, you're breaking down these food into its individual amino acids and individual glucose compound, then you're taking away the ability of these gut dysbiosis to ferment against these food, which will reduce bloat, will improve absorption, decrease gut inflammation, and create a healthy microbiome balance. So enzyme is going to be a very important part of the picture. And lastly, using these carbon-based minerals like humic acid and fulvic acid can really help restore the gut, in the sense that it can help chelate and bind to toxic metals and compounds and chemicals. And these compounds actually have an immune modulating effect, not just in the gut, but overall body. It can also impact microbiome activity by using these humic and fulvic acids. So then when you're using a very good probiotic with multiple species such as lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, you're using digestive enzyme to support breakdown, and you're using these carbon-based compounds, then you have a very powerful system to actually stimulate the gut to help it to heal and regenerate itself. You know, the incorporation of probiotics into a digestive enzyme blend is really interesting. Because most digestive enzymes products out there do not incorporate probiotics directly into the product. Now, why will we do that? Because these probiotics actually support breakdown. In fact, that's one of the main functions of probiotic, is to help with digestion and fermentation and breakdown of food. So by incorporating these probiotics directly into the digestive enzyme, you're going to increase the amount of breakdown and fermentation and the benefit that you're going to get from the digestive enzyme. Now, bromelain is a pineapple-derived digestive enzyme that can break down a spectrum of proteins. Now, protein is more difficult to digest than carbohydrates. Okay, so a lot of time when people have trouble with digestion, either due to lack of stomach acid production or lack of enzyme production, that's one of the first things you're going to see that you're going to have trouble with. And typically the symptom of that will be like you feel like there's a brick in your stomach, you just don't digest well, heaviness, you can have gas and bloating. So by incorporating protein digesting compound, this is going to really help you with breakdown of protein and the digestion of protein. Papain is a papaya-derived enzyme that supports the breakdown of protein. Again, with protein, especially if you're eating any type of cooked foods, you're going to need enzymes. Because when you eat cooked foods, the food denatures, the protein denatures, it changes composition, and it makes it tougher to digest. That's why raw meat versus a very well-cooked meat, the very well-cooked meat, you can cook it so much where it turns into like leathery, where the raw meat is going to be much softer. So cooking changes the protein composition to make it harder to digest. So if you eat cooked food, you're going to want to take an enzyme product. And bromelain and papain are one of the most important protein digestive enzymes. Of course, we have in the macronutrient profile, protein, carbohydrates, and fat. So you cannot just work on the protein and leave out the carbohydrates and the fat. So we when you use fungal lactase to help you break down lactose into glucose. You use fungal lipase to break down fats into its individual amino acids or fatty acids. And then you use alpha-galactose to really help you break down carbohydrate and these difficult to digest fiber. Then you're gonna have a very comprehensive coverage of all the different macronutrient breakdown. And then when you also add the probiotics, it's really gonna enhance the absorption of these nutrients. So the Well of Life digestive enzyme blend it actually incorporates the philosophy that I've talked about, in that we're incorporating the probiotics into the digestive enzyme product, which is a very unique formulation. You don't see that in the industry very much. So I'm very impressed with that particular formulation. And I also like the fact that you have comprehensive coverage to break down the various macronutrients, such as proteins, fats, and carbohydrate, as well as complex carb by the use of alpha-galactose. So I really like what you've done here in that you create a very unique product that's at a very cost-effective rate for almost everyone to be able to benefit from. And is safe to use, is something that you're gonna have great benefit without, even for the most sensitive clients, in the way that it's formulated. In a probiotic product, you want not only the probiotics, but you also want prebiotics. So what I liked about what I see here with what you've done with this Well Alive product is that not only the incorporation of the lactobacillus species and the bifidobacterium species, it also includes some prebiotics to help as a kind of like the food or the seedlings for the probiotic to help it survive and thrive. And you want something like that so that you're not, having the probiotics, but there's nothing to feed it. This increases the efficacy of the product. And this is something that I personally do in my own practice, the incorporation of prebiotic and probiotic for those who have these type of microbiome deficiencies.
Yes, I just feel like I'm born again because I had life before illness and no life during illness. And so it was like dark spot, completely dark spot, like you didn't live. And then you started to live again. So this is what I mean, born again. So, this is why I have pleasure. Like this small kid, he is so happy from everything, like ball. Oh, it's so good, it's ball. Oh, it's apple. It's so good, it's apple. It's red, it's tasty, it's so good. This is what I feel like right now, like small kid. That it's very happy and just have joy, from everything.
And how does that feel to be in that place right now, in comparison to where you were at, and how painful and how soul destroying that experience was for you, and to be now in this place of seeing joy in every little thing? What does that feel like, that contrast for you?
It's again, I don't look at this like that, because I try to close this dark spot. Dark spot, it's like box. This dark box with something bad, I put it somewhere in dark corner. It's sitting there. I don't even compare. I don't think about it. I just keep it, that's it.
You thought that you were a depressed person?
I was not ever before I got sick, I never was depressed.
Yeah.
Yes, but I was very happy. But when I got sick, I was in deep depression.
And do you wonder, because you said I realize I'm a happy person, did you question perhaps that maybe you are a depressed person? Did you question that? No? You knew it was the health problem. You knew that was the real reason.
Yes, of course.
Well, that's why it's great, because a lot of people don't realize that when it's happening to them. They feel like, well, they're depressed and there's no cause. So you're to have your life back, to be doing the things that you love. I mean, and perhaps you could tell us what those things that you love are. That'd be great. But I'm very, I would love for you to I want to know how that feels for you. How does it feel?
You know what? I again normal person. I again normal. I can live normal life. I can do what everything what I want to do. It is so amazing. It just, like, actually it's interesting that everybody takes this as granted. But I got it not as granted, It's kind of, it's earned it. And you feel it's much better, like it's, you kind of born again, because you just feel like again alive. Because before you felt like it's end of life, that's it. Nothing good in front of me. But now it's absolutely different picture.
Yeah, that's great. And so, Natalia, tell me what it's like interesting you use the word normal. I'm going to ask you to say this bit again. Just, we got it a minute ago, but I'll get you to go there again. What does it feel like for you to feel normal?
Psychologically or physically?
Both.
Both, okay. Physically, I just feel like I can walk long way. I can now, bike, what I really like, and I can swim. I absolutely independent now. I can drive. I can do normal things what I even didn't think before about it. It's like everybody can do this. Everybody can cook. Everybody can drive. Everybody can walk. But when you 5 years can't do this, it's big difference. And psychologically, it's of course. It's not just improvement, it's just, I would say, like I'm crazy happy, happy. Just maybe just too much, because it's because it just kind of happened suddenly, I would say, like how I became sick suddenly. And the same for me, I just suddenly became again normal. This is what it's like, big difference. It's maybe this is why it's so feeling so crazy, because it's just, you need to use to this.
Great, awesome. And then now, just tell me for a second, what was your background? What did you do career-wise for most of your life?
Oh, it's difficult to say most of my life, because I'm from Estonia. And I was, originally I was electrical control engineer, but I never worked as electrical control engineer. I taught at university, different kind of stuff, electronic. And then
so you were teaching electronics at university?
Yes. And then I came to United States, and I practically didn't know English, and I was 42 years old. Didn't know English, and practically I couldn't be teacher here. I also taught some in Estonia. I taught at school as well, like physics at school I taught. But here I just went to college, and private college for extensive accelerated program for people who has already education, but they want to change field. And I became programmer.
Great.
So, and I work as programmer more than 20 years here.
Okay, great. What kind of things were you programming?
What different depends on, my last job was there were many different languages, many different platforms, you name it. It's like DB2, SQL. I started with COBOL, then IB Initio, then Basic, then C#, then different kind of.
Right, you have a degree in engineering, is that right?
Yeah.
So the competition amongst your peers, there's lots of very smart people inside of engineering, correct?
Especially for women.
Why?
When I taught, I always told that to women that to be equal to men in this field, you should be on, level better. In this case, they will consider you equal. It is from my experience. Yeah, I know when I couldn't work anymore, I left, and it's right now on my job, it's 3 people working. What I did myself. 3
people to do your one job.
3. It's my my manager, my boss, he called me, oh, maybe you can work 1 day a week, maybe part-time, from home, any kind of, but please work.
And what did you say?
No, I just couldn't. I just couldn't work. I couldn't, at this moment, these 5 years, I couldn't even keep a mouse in because it was so terrible pain. So I couldn't do anything. I just couldn't work on computer. It was big problem for me to research, to find ways, because I was very limited. I couldn't work on computer because I just tried to, not to move much.
Do you feel stronger from after doing all these protocols?
Oh, no comparison. Yes, this is what I think the most important part of protocol. It is detox. It's colon cleanse for 3 months, but for me it took 7 months. This is why the best way to sign for this special, they send you every 3 months. This is why it's the cheapest way and it's more convenient way.
It's great.
So yeah, and this is what it's like. You take this. It's very easy actually. It's 2 pills during the lunch, then toxibinder. The first it colon cleanse. So you cleanse your colon, then you bind everything what is toxin and so on, heavy metals, так далее.
Did you use this supplement?
I did toxibinder, and by night I took Parapurify. And so hopefully in the morning everything what is bad goes away. So this is what it's like, very easy protocol. But before, you want to be sure that your liver actually works, your kidney works, and so you need maybe support for liver and for kidney as well. Digestive enzymes. So these enzymes I took with each meal. Without it, it was very difficult because for me it's guts, practically my gut didn't work. So my stomach, my liver, everything was kind of out of normal because of this medication. Thanks to this protocol, I was able to be on this terrible medicine like chemo and steroids, but I was able to decrease amount. This is what is important. Even if you can't get rid completely, but you can decrease amount, and it's very, very important also, because you have much less side effects with less amount. So this is also a good product. And this one, it's lymph flow. Lymph flow, it's actually, I would say it's like a last piece of puzzle of what you need to address. Here's very good stuff. What it's like all herbals. It's very good. It's like organic powder, orca powder, and peony. And here is super fulvic mineral. It's like here is more than 100 micro elements actually.
Micronutrients?
Yes.
Okay, so just finally, the Parapurify. So did you take this product?
Oh yes, took 7 months, and right now it's again started new session of this. So it's 3 capsules every night, 3 capsules. Here is mimosa pudica, favorite mimosa pudica, and also black walnut. That's very good stuff.
Did this product help you?
Yes, definitely, because this is how I got rid of these worms and parasites.
All these obstacles, and so like what kind of person does this? Well, a resilient person and a hardworking person, a passionate person. That's who you are, and I see that, and then I see that you came so close to losing your life from a health challenge, and you came so close to giving up on life because of how hard that was, and that's understandable. And so for me, this is just an amazing reminder to me of cherishing people and cherishing you, that the world gets to cherish you and see your story and appreciate you and see your beauty and see your wisdom and see your excellence and see your story like a beautiful flower in the field, and they can see that and witness that. And so I appreciate that so much, and that's why I'm here. I want the world to see that. I want to celebrate that, and you deserve that, Natalia.
Yes.
But it came at a great cost to you, and that's why for me we have to tell this story. And it's an injustice if we can't tell the story, because if we don't tell the story, then the suffering just happens and it's kept secret or it's private. But then when we share this kind of suffering with people, that it gives them a key.
Yeah, this is why I'm doing this. Just want to help other people. Just easier to go through this process. I didn't have such person who I could, just if I would saw this 5 years ago, somebody on TV, on computer, that somebody was able to get rid of very serious illness, it would be very helpful for me, but it didn't happen. Fortunately, it's happened only after 5 years.
Well, this is the gift that you're giving to somebody else.
Exactly.
Well, God bless you, right? Well, here, let me give you a hug here. Thank you. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Jonathan.
This episode was aimed at helping us to understand the true function of the gut and its microbiome. With so many of our internal processes relating back to the gut, it's important to make sure that we support our gut health, which many people struggle with. Things like poor dietary choices, lack of sleep and exercise, exposure to environmental toxins, parasitic infections, and other infections all cause damaging effects on the gut and the gut microbiome. When the gut is not functioning properly, other internal systems in the body will suffer. Inflammation increases, and any of the various autoimmune diseases can begin, including diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, celiac disease, and many, many others. Many of these can be prevented, controlled, and reversed with the correct diet, exercise, adequate sleep, supplements, and other natural compounds. By maintaining the health of the gut, our internal organs will function well and will have great absorption of nutrients, and our detoxification systems will get rid of the toxins in our bodies. Let's take a look at some of the important information that we covered during this episode. You can use these bullet points as a guide on your journey to discover a holistic approach to preventing and reversing the triggers of autoimmune disease. In this episode, we discovered that gut health affects all other parts of the body, including the brain. The foods that you eat dictate the type of microbiome that exists in your gut, but the drugs you take can also affect that microbiome. One of the highest prescribed medications over the entire world are proton pump inhibitors, which are basically antacids. If you disrupt stomach acid, you're not going to get the activation of the peptidases that break down protein in your gut the right way. The increase in the use of antibiotics is causing a complete disruption in the gut microbiome. There are 500 to 1,000 species of bacteria inside each of us. The gut microbiome is in charge of our mental state, how we feel in our body, inflammation in the body, and our hormones and blood sugar balances. In addition to food being number one, another big player in gut bacteria diversity is aerobic exercise. Getting outdoors and interacting with nature has a positive effect on our gut microbes. Cruciferous vegetables are important because they help us raise levels of sulforaphane in our bodies, which neutralizes toxins. Sulforaphane powers up the production of our body's own endogenous antioxidants and powerfully reduces inflammation. Cortisol has important uses, but it also suppresses your immune system, so keeping your stress levels under control is very, very important. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I've certainly enjoyed creating it. My wife and I just love not only learning this information, sharing it, but helping everyone we love and care about with this. And you, by virtue of the fact that you are a part of the human family and the fact that you've come here and you've trusted us, are a part of that family. And we think about what the future will look like as people apply these things, and that's what makes us so excited to create these resources to help change and inspire people around the world and to change the outcome for people. Just as we close this episode and we look forward to the next episode, I want to remind you that we have a very special program that is completely life-changing. I've used this, my wife has used this, we've used this on her family, my family. People have achieved extraordinary results in their health to get rid of the toxins that are causing all of these things while balancing the gut bacteria and helping to heal the gut lining and the digestive process and the probiotics, the prebiotics, the postbiotics. All these amazing tools are absolutely like game changers, and I want to encourage you to use a specific program that you know is getting results. And if you are seeing those results here, if you believe that this is something that could absolutely help you, then I encourage you to go about these processes, and you can go about them however you like. But what I've found is to stick to a program that you believe will get you the results you're looking for, and to go step by step and follow that through can be life-changing. And so to own this series, to rewatch the episodes, to make sure you're understanding it, to get the transcripts so you can read along, to be able to watch it in your own leisure time, but especially be able to talk with the doctors, that's life-changing. It's so inspiring when you go in with a group, and we've got that as part of a gift inside of this program. All you have to do is click the button below to learn more, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Make sure to take action before the series ends. It's best to take action now because we do have limited supplies. It is based on demand and supply, and so if you are excited about this, certainly take action now while you have the opportunity. So thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.